So thank you both so much for joining me today. Very excited to learn more about the Cotuit Coding Camp. I know you actually had a first round in February vacation. Tell me a little bit about Coding Camp and why it's so important to get kids used to or introduced to coding.
Well, I would say because it's a very important skill going forward, because technology is such a huge part of our lives, even though we don't necessarily understand that, the underlying code that runs all of the technology. Children need to learn that as a kind of literacy, the way they would reading and writing.
Yeah. And most future jobs are projected to have some form of coding involved in them. Like every job is going to have to know some form of code, or at least interact with technology in a way that they can manipulate it. And that's what the Coding Camp is doing, is we are exposing them to the concepts, to the ideas of it in a way that they can understand it, so that as they learn it later on, they have a foundation they can build on. And it's not scary, it's fun.
Computational thinking, really, rather than actually writing code.
Right.
Yeah, because looking at numbers and symbols doesn't really mean a whole lot to any of us, really. But when you put it into simple terms, it can really be understood in a much simpler way. So talk to me about some of the really cool things that are happening at Coding Camp to reach kids at their level.
One of the very first concepts that we deal with in every one of the coding camps is the algorithm. At the basis of everything that you're going to learn, you need to understand what an algorithm is. And we don't dumb that word down. We introduce the word, we introduce what the definition is, which is simply a set of steps that you take to complete a task. And then we say, what's an algorithm that you use in your daily life? And we talk about brushing your teeth. And so we have them go through the steps of what it is to brush their teeth. And if they forget a step, we say, okay, we need to debug this program. Like, you forgot to put the toothpaste on the toothbrush when you were telling me about it. And so we do those kinds of things that are real world. We also do ones where we had this fun activity where I was supposed to plant a seed. And they put all the steps in pictures that I was supposed to do, because we're trying to teach them that it's not words that you're using, but you're using something different to create the code. And they bugged it for me. So they had me plant the seed and pour glue on it and soda in the pot, and then they debugged it so that I planted a seed correctly.
Wow. I don't think I had ever really thought of it in those terms. So putting it in those terms really simplifies it for me as well, even though I'm an adult and, can't really, it's so interesting. And then you have really fun games like, this is a robot. What is this called?
This is Cubeto, and it was a very, very successful Kickstarter campaign. And we purchased 2 of them originally for the camp, and we had such success with that. It's so much fun on so many different levels that we opted to purchase fewer, more high-tech robots, and we opted to buy 2 more of these because they're really, really fun, hands-on, and very approachable. You can see by his little face, or her little face, that it's a very appealing and non-threatening way of sort of putting your code into action.
And so this is really cool because kids can take, so this would be a piece of code,
yes,
and you stick it on, and this has a reaction.
Yes.
So you can make, and you actually have a mat, so you can make the robot get to a certain place on the board,
yes,
and take turns and move around. So really cool to have them do this. Do you see the light bulb come on when they're using this?
Yeah. What's really interesting is that you see a couple of different kinds of light bulbs come on. First, we see the one where they begin to understand that this is an algorithm and that there's a computer inside of here that is talking to the computer inside of there. Then we see the light bulb come on that they can work collaboratively to create more complex programs than they are if they're doing it one at a time. So we usually begin by each of them taking a turn, and we give them a destination they need to get to on the map. What we find happens is that they naturally start to problem solve together, and they naturally start doing it as a team instead of an individual. And when they hit a problem, because they make a mistake, they have to debug it, they work together to figure out how to get that problem to stop. The nice thing about this one is that you can teach the algorithm, but there's a section here where we can teach what a function is as well. And that takes the learning just like to the next step. And there are just limitless ways that we have been able to use this. And actually, the first group that was there renamed it because they loved it so much. They named him Croby.
So cute.
And what's nice about this too is that we do so much of the fundamental teaching in a kind of an analog way without actually getting into computers or, you know, a lot of parents get very worried when we say coding camp that we're just going to have their kids on a screen for an hour.
Right.
You know, doing Minecraft, which is not what this is. This is about learning, understanding the fundamental concepts behind it. But there is a certain reward factor in being able to do something with a robot.
Right.
So it's not just about planting a seed, or I have some wonderful footage of Jenny acting out some of the dance routines. There was a little function game with that too, but so that's kind of a reward. And we have a few other robots that we're going to be trying. We've got a Dash and Dot, we have something called OzoBot, which involves drawing different colored lines, so there's a sort of an arts component, and actually that's something that we're going to be working on with this coding camp is even more of an arts component. We actually have a pianist coming.
Yes, we're going to be teaching functions with music with Stephanie Emberley, who's been to the library several times and is actually giving a concert.
Yeah, she's also giving a concert that
very
night.
soon. So, so she's going to be teaching the kids using music functions. And then our very first day, we're teaching them about algorithms, doing a giant art project together. So each of them will be a line of code. And then we will create this art together as our individual lines of code.
Such a cool opportunity for kids in our area. What age level are you gearing this coding camp to?
Well, because we're still kind of working out how to approach different age groups with the materials that we have, we've based the last camp and this camp on ages 5 to 8. We had 6 through 9 for the last one, and that worked out really well. With the younger child was contributing his thoughts to it, and the 2 older ones were, you know, happy to have him help out. And so it wasn't too much of a age disparity problem. We're hoping eventually, especially with the summer, that we will have sort of like 4 to 6 and 7 to 9, that age, so that we can actually divide it in half. Age-wise, but right now it's sort of 5 through 8 with a little leeway depending on the child. So.
Wonderful. Is there a cost for participants to take advantage of the coding camp?
Absolutely not.
No, and that's thanks to the grants that you were able to get.
This is funded partially by the Friends of the Cotuit Library. They were actually responsible for the first couple of Cubetos and for some iPads that we have for a little bit later on. And then we applied for an LSTA grant, that's a Library Services and Technology Act, which is federal funding from the Institute of Museum and Library Services. But it's administered by the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. And so we wrote the proposal and we were accepted. It was an innovative grant. So, and the idea is that we're not only providing this for the Barnstable community, but that other librarians can come, or people from other organizations, see what we're doing and either say, hey, we'd love you to come do it for us, or give us some information on how we can do it in our library.
And you already have a librarian from Martha's Vineyard, I think, who's going to come observe.
At least that's the plan. We're hoping that that West Tisbury will send a librarian to come watch.
Wow, so exciting. I think so cool to really give so many kids an opportunity to engage with technology in a new and different way, and like you said, have a foundation for those concepts that they can understand it before getting even further into coding. Thank you guys for joining me today and telling me all about the coding camp.
Should we make Cubeto?
Let's make a move.
Let's put our last line of code in.
Let's hope he doesn't go off.
So now, if you turn this a certain way, can you turn them different ways?
So they only go flat
one
side.
Okay.
So they only turn certain ways. So the way that I've written this code, he should turn this way, go forward twice, and turn once the other way. Yeah, just to get it
off the table. All right, let's see him.
So then we're going to press our button.
And now he's following the directions that you gave him. Look at that.
And he stops after each one, which helps the kids understand.
That was the first.
This is this one. And sometimes they will actually even say, oh, now he's doing this. So now he's all done.
So neat. So neat. Well, thank you guys. And of course, we should say, are there still spots available? I know this is approaching quickly. Next week it's happening. So are there still a couple spots available?
Absolutely.
Yes.
Wonderful.
Yes.
So call the Cotuit Library to sign up.
Yes.
Great. Thank you so much. Of course, our guest today, Cotuit Library Director Antonia Stevens and Jenny Wiley. She is the owner of Wiley Consulting. For Barnstable Today, I'm Sarah Mannel. You're fine.